Let's create a budget. Let's get out of debt. Let's build wealth. Guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're coming up to the end of this year and we're going to be starting a new year here soon. So I will be creating a new budget sheet, kind of, for our family and, if I help other people. So I thought that this would be a good time. People have expressed interest in my spreadsheet. So, when creating this new one, I thought I would just create a video and show you guys exactly how I do it. So the first thing I wanted to do is the first thing I do is I think about what is needed in the spreadsheet. And every time I make a new one, I always find better ways and, different information that's needed. So I kind of brainstorm, first of all, what is needed in the spreadsheet. So the first thing I know I'm going to need is a list of all the bills or a description of the bills. And this isn't going to be in any particular order. It's just basically a scratch sheet on kind of what I need on the spreadsheet and what to include on it. And I put on here status. That is, this is going to basically be able to keep track of your bills every month. This is like the starting point on everything. You got to be able to write your stuff down to build. If you want to build successful, if you want to get out of debt, you want to build wealth, it all starts here. Status, so basically we'll list the bills. The status is just basically going to be a yes, no, whether or not that bill is paid for the month. I like to keep things simple, and really you don't need a tab for every month, but you could just have a description, the month up there. But that, even though this will kind of be something I use and family use and you guys use, I'm going to probably include a lot of different features on the sheet. It's not really necessary, so any of these can really be taken off or added, but just because people are different and people like to see things broken down in a certain way. Status, I think it's important regardless. This just lets you know, it's basically just a yes, no, whether or not that bill has been paid for the month. Next, I'll have a due date. Due dates, again, and the way that I do it is not real necessary, but it's, we pay our bills once a week. It is good to know what's coming up and to be able to kind of plan ahead. So we'll add a due date in there. We definitely going to need the monthly payment. In order to get our expenses for that month, we're going to need to know the monthly payment on each one of these bills. The total balance, again, this isn't real necessary if it's just a generic sheet, but if you wanted to know your total debt by entering that balance in there, you can figure out what that total debt is. The problem with that is, we always want this as easy as possible. Unless you're really focused and trying to pay off debt and want to know the balance, some people want to know. You will have to update this every month in order for it to be correct. That's kind of the problem because you got manual work and eventually you may just stop entering it. But I like to put it in there anyway, just for people who do like that. The credit limit, this is another one, not 100% necessary, but if you want to know your total, if you want to know your net worth and you want to know your total of all your assets, by entering that credit limit, you'll be able to tell. Also, this is good for debt ratio. If you know your total balances, your total credit limit, you can kind of figure out how much of your debt, you're utilizing. This is good if you're planning on buying a house or applying for something. If you're not, there's nothing really in the near future, it doesn't matter much, but this is a good one to have in there. Some people may want. Now, whether a bill is on Autopay or not, I used to have this as a separate column, but I kind of combined this with due date. Basically, you can kind of use additional formatting to change the field, whether or not it's on Autopay, and then just enter the due date. So that eliminates a column because it was starting to get too wide, but that is a feature we'll probably put on there. So I put on here a name field, and that it's not, I mean, it's kind of, if it's your personal use, you don't really need it, but I just kind of like having it. Basically, you just put your last name. It's kind of usually I do this in the top left corner. Kind of, if I'm working with people, it kind of lets me know who it is right away. But I kind of like to have that on there. It only takes up a couple of cells, so I'll add that in there. So those are kind of the columns, and then we'll need an expense total. This will basically add up all of these list of bills with their monthly payment next to it. That expense total would add all of those up and put it in a different cell. And then we'll have a cell for the income. So usually income will be on the top. We'll have then we will enter the expense total. We would then have a cell for our cash flow. So we list all of our bills out. We know our monthly payments. Those monthly payments will be added up. That's going to give us our expense total. Then we'll have our income, which we'll enter. You can enter a total from the whole month or just your total income, and then the cash flow, the income will be subtracted from the expense total, and that's going to give you your cash flow number. And velocity banking is pretty important to know these numbers, and it's just a few extra cells on a sheet in order to add that on there, so it's not that bad. So so far we'll have all of our bills. We'll know how much those payments are every month. We'll know the balance in the credit line. We'll have our three major numbers: our income, expenses, and cash flow. And what I like to include on every spreadsheet I make is a budget field. To me, budget is like the steering wheel for all of this. It's the driving force. So you've got to have a budget on there. You got to be able to separate budget from all of the other bills, because that is what, and we know that money is made to flow, and budget is one area where the money actually moves out of that flow. It stops the flow. So I always like to have budget in there as a separate, kind of its own little cell. And I'm gonna squeeze bills, what I call bills credit card, in there. To me, once we understand the flow, we understand. I mean, the spreadsheet itself is kind of tailored towards, understanding that there's basically three different expenses. You have your budget, which we would normally run on a credit card and then pay that credit card off every month. And then you'll have a second credit card which you use to pay all the bills with. So one credit card will be separated for your budget. That way you understand and know how much you're spending. It's easier to keep track of, so you know exactly what you spent and whether or not you're staying within the budget that you set for yourself. And then there's the bills credit card. So all other bills that can be paid with credit card will be paid with this bill. What's separated from your budget is the bills credit card. If you try to use the bills credit card for your budget, you can go over. You can't quite really keep track of it. This is a simple way of keeping track of it and understanding how it works. So the bills credit card, budget credit card, they kind of have their own cell. Is separated. Budget, it will actually have its own little area, and the bills will have its own little area, and then that's another separated, but yet it has its own row in with the regular list of bills, which once we get into creating the spreadsheet, you'll be able to see it. One other thing is kind of the flow. I think we'll probably do basically, I guess, what we will call the layout of this. So we'll actually get into the spreadsheet. We kind of know the information that we need to put on the spreadsheet. So in the next video, we'll get into all of that layout. You'll see my thought process on how to do it. Designing it is sometimes can take a while, to try to get all the information, to try to keep it as simple as possible. So we will into that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I appreciate a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.